Good morning. I wanted to make a video because I see a lot of communication currently going on, a lot of videos coming out about this quote unquote honey scam. Maybe it's a scam, maybe it's not. I don't really want to focus on talking about honey because I feel like honey is a symptom of an underlying problem with this issue. And so I kind of wanted to dig a little bit into what is the real problem, right? Because I feel like everyone's focus is kind of in the wrong direction. Like I understand why everyone is looking at PayPal and Honey. They're a company that has a lot of money and they're doing kind of scummy things by sort of taking money out of the pockets of creators and influencers. Part of these individuals and entities that are part of a framework of marketing and intake for these affiliate programs that seems like PayPal is sort of swindling people out of. However, my concern about this whole thing that I've sort of noticed is with the focus being on Honey and who is doing it, nobody's really talking, at least I haven't seen too much talking about what exactly are they doing, right? And I think part of the problem is you have to kind of understand where the problem actually really lies with this to really understand who you should be upset with, right? So to me, I look at this sort of thing as a software engineer. I do a lot of web development, APIs, web applications. I do a lot of stuff when it comes down to a person's ability to interact with either a website, a web API, or anything similar, right? So one of the things that I'm fairly familiar with is cookies and the behavior of cookies in tracking anything from what's known as um, client-side sourced data. So, in basic, when it comes down to technology, at least from if we're going to look at it like a website, right? So if I go to, for instance, um, Amazon, right? And so now I'm at Amazon. So the thing is, and anyone that knows anything about like modifying HTML or edit elements, you know that what you're seeing here with Amazon is essentially to simplify things, it's a copy of the website, right? It's a copy that you downloaded, right? In the 90s, it used to take forever for this to happen, right? You'd have to sit here, you'd wait, the website would load top to bottom. It was a very slow process to get a copy of that website. And the website or the copy that you have locally is a document, right? That's essentially what it is. There's a lot of different technologies that can be used to build a website, but in general, it's a document. It's presenting elements to you. And so, as a part of creating that copy locally, you have what's known as client-side elements or client-side data. So, client is it's this, right? It's what me as the person, me as the consumer of this application. I'm currently at a client copy of the website. The server itself, and this is sort of a bit of a misnomer because there's a lot of servers, and there could be a lot of servers doing a lot of different things, especially something as large as a Amazon Prime account, right? Like this thing, or just Amazon in general. Right? Amazon's a very sophisticated application. It tracks a lot of retail data, purchasing systems. There is so much stuff happening, and it's ridiculous. But so because of that, you're going to have a lot of back-end servers, a lot of infrastructure that's going to host something like this. So when it said servers or server, they don't just mean one server. It's just this is more of a concept, right? Server is their stuff, client is my stuff, right? And so when I go to their website, I am creating a copy, so to speak, of their website from the web server or the web services to my computer, so I have a local copy to interact with. As a part of this, and what this means a lot of things, right? So number one, when the only way I have to interact with Amazon's resources or infrastructure is through what they want me to interact with, right? Through their website, right? So I have all these little links and menus that they created for the user to be able to interact, and essentially what I'm doing is I am interacting with their service through here using my local computer as a portal, right? And so when I have a portal, not only can I do things, so for instance, if I bring up F12, which for the most part is usually your your development tools. I got a few options. I'm already set up on the tab that I'm probably going to spend most of my time talking about, but I do actually want to head over to network. So when I actually come to network and I hit F5 to just reload the page, you can actually see the amount of documents and elements that are loaded as a part of just coming to the website. Do nothing more than just reloading. And isn't it wild? Like, look at all this stuff. There's so much going on. It is insane. If I wanted to see some of the first things that were going on, I could just sort of come over here and capture the early stuff. And now I'm only seeing what essentially happened in the few first microseconds. And there's still a lot going on here. But the thing is again, if I wanted to interact with this, because again, it's a copy, I can do weird things where, like, for instance, let's say, I don't know what I just did there. It's kind of weird. Let's say that I wanted to come over to the elements and now I want to find this menu, right? And then I can directly edit this in here, so I can actually change the value of what's in this menu, right? Rather, so I could type over here and say product, right? And so that's one way of doing it. Or I could come over here and I could actually edit the value here in the actual HTML code and sort of accomplish the same thing. Might even have like a dot value, or it may not. I don't really know what the current syntax is. We actually can see there's a value here that's blank. So let's throw in like product 2 and see if anything changes. Nah, nothing changed. Anyways, yeah, I'd have to kind of play with this a little bit and figure out where exactly that value is at. But in short, if I wanted to really kind of automate some stuff and start really getting kind of goofy, I believe I'm gonna want path. I can come over to console. Let's paste this in there, see what we get. This is two tab search text box. That's a very interesting thing. So that's the actual JavaScript selector code to get to that element. So now it may give me a value, which it does. Uh, and so as we can see, the value currently is set to product. Um, and I may be able to just sit here and say, all right, well, I want to actually make that now product, let's say 2025, right? And as we can see, it updated over here. Um, and so that's one way to interact with it, right? And so the whole point that I'm showing you is that there's ways to interact with a website without doing it in the way that they sort of design, right? The way that they sort of expect you. They expect you to come over here and say, all right, this is where I'm going to type in what I'm looking for. But you can do it a lot of different ways, and they can't stop me from doing this. Now, they can put some barriers up and they can slow me down, but at the end of the day, this is, again, a local copy of their application on my computer, right? Like, that's part of being on the internet. It's just the way it works. Um, so because of that, I can take all the time in the world I want to kind of drill into this stuff and sort of learn how it works, reverse engineer it, and find exploits. And that's generally what people do when they're bad actors and they want to do something sort of squirrely. So imagine my surprise when I find out that, part of this honey thing is that they're actually using the local client side cache store, cookie store, um, for data that's correlative to money, right? Like, to me, this is wild. This is something that you're getting into the world of money, finances. That's stuff that's super critical, super important. So you need to sort of white glove that, put in the extra effort and time to ensure that you're not half-assing it, right? That you're taking care of this data, you're making sure this data is secure, and that its intended use is all it's being used for. It's persisted for analytical and prosperity purposes, legal purposes, whatever the case may be. This is stuff that when you get into the world of money and paying for someone that is not a part of your organization, you want to really be sort of careful about what you're doing with this sort of stuff, because this is where obviously you run into legal problems. This is the area where you can really get yourself in trouble in the eyes of the consumer. So where's the problem, right? Well, first off, here's your cookies, right? And so as we know, this is where the problem is sort of happening. My understanding is that there's a cookie that is being saved, and that value gets sort of flipped when someone goes to an affiliated website. Let's say it's Amazon, for instance. Amazon, obviously, you saw all these documents that are running over here in the network. Most of this stuff, not the JPEGs, those are obviously going to be images, but most of this stuff is going to be scripts. So if we actually go over to sources, we can see some of the scripts that are running as a part of coming to this website. And there's going to be tons, right? Like if we drill into each of these, we will find all sorts of stuff. Here's my password manager script. So there's some stuff that, is just a part of my browser is going to run because it knows, hey, you're going to this website, so I want to sort of do certain things, or the website itself is, hey, someone's coming to my website, I wanted to do certain things. For instance, here's like my Capital One stuff. I'm assuming this is mine. It could be an extension, could be something on their side. You could drill into all these sort of scripts. So as you see, it's all in JavaScript, and you can sort of figure out what these things are. And these things are running as soon as I come to the website, right? And it's being done super fast. I don't see it happening. It's quick. It's, and it's doing who knows what. You would sort of lose your sanity very quickly if you were to investigate each and every script that runs every time you go to a major website like this. So anyways, back under application here, we have cookies, and again, so they're essentially saying, all right, well, I have somebody that came to my website. I want to see who sent that person from the website, and I want to track what they're doing, right? And once they get to my website, if I'm tracking them and they came as part of a referral link and then they make a purchase or a specific promotion or a purchase as part of a specific promotion, I want to track this information. I want to be aware of it so I can pay the right people, or I can know how successful my campaign is working, whatever, right? This is all part of the big data world. This is just keeping track of all the ins and outs of technology's integration with business, especially retail. So they're opting to go through a cookie method. So what is a cookie? A cookie is it's excuse me, it's a temporary, usually temporary, we'd love to think it's temporary, file or data that gets saved client side. So this is on your computer as a part of your download of their application. Something gets added to the browser to keep track of certain things. Now this usually is designed to be basic, volatile stuff that they don't really expect that they need to persist. Not important things, usually something small or simple. So for instance, let's say you go to a website and you get prompted that says, hello, how are you doing? And then you got a little checkbox that says, I'm doing fine, don't ask again, right? Well, they want to know that you've checked the don't ask again, right? So maybe they put that in a cookie because it's not a super important thing, right? This isn't financial data. This is user preference data. This isn't something that needs to be made into a big deal. So you track that with a cookie. You don't always even have to track it there. You have all these other little buckets of data that you can put it into. But again, all this stuff here is local, right? This is client-side stuff. So this stuff here should not be treated as important, right? It really shouldn't be. Some stuff's important just because it'll allow the application to work as intended. But as far as consumable data that actually has purpose, that has impact, that has something, whether it be monetary, analytics, whatever, if the data actually is destined for great things, it should not come from here, nor be saved here. And there's a variety of reasons. One, like I said, this is mine. Right, I can come in here and I can clear this out. Many people do. They clear their cookies all the time. If I can clear it, I can also modify it, right? So here are some cookies here, so we can see the name here is an ad ID, right? And then they have some sort of identifier. So if I wanted to come in here, I could edit the value, and I could just say, leave me alone. It obviously won't do anything, but now that's my ad ID. That's going to probably mess with some of their analytics and their ability to track what's going on, and it may not even stay that way. At the moment I do something on the website, this may get updated again. So this stuff is meant to be very mutable, and it's again, it's local. This is my stuff. I can modify this at any point that I want to, however I want to. So like in this case, skin, no skin. Maybe that's a good use of it, right? That's a user preference. Maybe there's some sort of skinning, dark mode or something that they can have enabled on the website, and that's where you would put it here. There's two reasons why that might be important. One, with it being cache and local, obviously I don't have to go anywhere to get that. That information is always readily available to my browser. It doesn't have to ask the server for this sort of stuff, and that makes sense, right? Like if it's doing something that's strictly for the appearance of the application, you don't want to have to go to the server to ask for all this stuff all the time, especially if it's preferential, right? It's something specific to my account. But when it comes down to financial information and when it comes down to metadata, this is not stuff that necessarily needs to be tracked locally. I'm not sure of too many technical reasons why that would even make sense. To me, it makes sense to have that sort of stuff saved server side in a database, a data warehouse, a mainframe. There's a million different ways you can store this. You could even be a cheapskate and do it in a CSV file or Notepad for all I care. You just want this locked behind infrastructure that you control because that's where money's at. And you need to be able to report on this stuff. You need to be able to have good solid accuracy or as close as reasonably possible with these sort of things. The idea that you would put it here on something that you don't control to me is wild. It doesn't make any sense. Again, I can change all this stuff here directly here, or I could go into Visual Studios and write an application that modifies those values, right? Or an extension that modifies those values, as is the problem currently, right? Like you have something that goes in there, and it's so in technology, when it comes to permissions and what something is allowed to do, the idea that I would create an application, and this application would save financial data, and that financial data can be modified by another application that has nothing to do with my application. That is a terrifying prospect. Like that's a design flaw that it can't even really be sort of commented on to the severity of ridiculousness. Like it shouldn't be like that. And so while yes, I do think there's a problem obviously with PayPal and Honey being the application that's going in and modifying these values, the very fact that an application, let's say Amazon for instance, is sitting here driving any sort of financial or any sort of salient behavior or data streams off of this stuff over here is just absolutely wild to me. Because let's say, yes, sure, in this case it's PayPal, it's Honey, they're doing some squirrely stuff, but what about in a couple of weeks? What if it's, Joe Schmo in a basement who writes a simple extension but also is a part of the affiliate program, and now suddenly he's hijacking people's affiliate traffic but doing it at such a low frequency and cadence that nobody really notices it, unlike PayPal where they got noticed because obviously they got a little too greedy, they were doing it a little too big. But what about if it's something small, right? Because a person can be quite satisfied with stealing a little bit of money, right? Companies steal insane amounts of money, which obviously is the case with PayPal. Um, but to me, it just stands to reason that the conversation should be about why are these affiliate programs, why are these vendors doing it this way? Why are they not going into their own stuff? Why is this stuff not being saved server side somewhere where there's so many options out there? You have the whole different stacks of SQL databases that are pretty standard in the web development world. You have the more trendy, newer NoSQL stuff like MongoDB. And like I said, you could even go as cheap and just go with like an Access database or CSV files or even Excel or Google Sheets. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do, but the main thing is you want this to be immutable to anyone but yourself, right? So Amazon, they save financial information, they save valuable information. That information is not going to be found here locally, right? Like it shouldn't be. It's going to be saved on their server somewhere, right? Um, and that's generally the way it should be, right? Because we can't account for who's going into these data buckets. And you can see there's quite a few little buckets here that people can play with. And there's a lot of different, and that's just in, Google, on Chrome. Like, who's to say, what all these other browsers offer? And, there's just, it's not an area you control. It's not your area to play in. So why would you do this, right? To me, it just makes sense to say, what do we control, right? We control our databases, we control our servers, we control our infrastructure. Let's put it there where then we can create audits, right? Because the other thing that's not talked about is audits, right? Like, don't you want to know who has tried to change those values? And sure, let's say you prevent them from being able to change it because it's on your infrastructure, you can stop them. But don't you want to know if someone tried, right? And then report on that and be aware of that. So if I have something on a server-side value, I can keep track of all the traffic and all the things, people, whatever, that has tried to access, either read or overwrite that data. And those are things that I may need to be aware of to for a lot of reasons, right? Design issues, legal defense, a lot of different reasons. And you want to be able to report on that and keep track of that. Again, all this data here gets wiped the moment I reload or I clear it or whatever. This is, again, my stuff. So this is not owned by Amazon. Amazon doesn't own any of this data. They may own ultimately how it gets played with and some of the things that it does, but what's currently happening here, this is my stuff. I can modify this to my heart's content, right? I can change my ad ID, I can change the ad privacy settings, I can change all these cookies to whatever I want them to do, and Amazon can't stop me. There's no control over it. They also don't know if I did it, right? Like, would I just change this to leave me alone? Was this logged anywhere? I don't think so. It's possible that maybe the browser is keeping track of this somewhere, but even if it is, it's not something that's long for this world. It'll probably get overwritten or probably has a very short shelf life. Versus if I put it in a database, I can keep track of who's running queries against that database, what applications are trying to access that data, who's tried to access that data that doesn't have access to it, who does have access to it, the frequency, the network locations of where the stuff is coming from. And it allows me to start to build a picture of what's going on with that data's usage. And again, these are all super, super important things that you want to do when it comes down to data that has financial implications, specifically because it's money and people care about money, and it becomes even more important when you're talking about people that are not directly affiliated. Well, I mean, they're indirectly, right? They're affiliated because they have a business agreement or an affiliate agreement. But in the case of Honey, while yes, they are affiliated with the vendor as a part of their affiliate program, they're messing with other affiliates' values, their data. And those two don't necessarily have a relationship with each other, right? So, for instance, I use Honey, and I'm not an affiliate of any program or anything. I don't have anything to do with anything. So, if Honey's over there flipping values in my data, that I have a problem with that, right? Because I didn't give them permission to do that. That's overscoped. I never said you could do that, and yet here they are playing with my data. Um, Now, there's no financial implication to me directly. Like, honestly, I've had Honey for so many years, long before PayPal bought them out, and have never really had any value out of it. I think it's a pretty pointless extension. It hangs out there. I probably have had it installed for 10 years, and I've not seen a dollar of value out of it that I'm aware of. Um, so to me, really, Honey, if anything, rather than messing with people's cookies, they should probably be more focusing on how to be a more valuable extension as it is, because it could disappear from my browser tomorrow, and I don't think I would notice. Um, but regardless, now I'd originally planned to sort of show how you could do this from a code standpoint, but I really just don't feel like getting into that. And I think that just the fact that you could see you can come into a browser and just sort of modify this stuff, I think that it sort of captures the point that I'm trying to get home, is that nobody should be driving important workflows off of this. You just shouldn't be doing that. That's just a bad idea. And so, if anyone happens to watch this, and if anyone really cares, in my opinion, I think that's where the conversation needs to be at: is why are the vendors, the people that are actually paying this stuff out? Why are they cheaping out and using local storage like this and cookies and local caches? Why is this stuff not being persistently saved to infrastructure? Why isn't this on servers? Why isn't this somewhere where they can get their hands around it? They have control of it. They can report on it. They can audit on it. They can do all the things they need to do. But most importantly, they can secure it and avoid it being touched by someone else who may have a motive or be a bad faith operator to modify that data in a way that harms people and enriches themselves, which is obviously where we're at. So I think that this whole thing is just a symptom. I don't think that it's addressing the root issue. And if you want to talk a little bit more to me about it, and I can probably give a little bit better of a rundown, because I know this isn't a great video, but it is what it is. I'm not a content creator. I try my best, so hope it helps. See ya.